All right, everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Mad Dog Radio with your host, Mad Dog Maddens. Today I got a special guest with me. Y'all know him as Killer Scotch, GM of the Grand Rapids Griffins. How you doing today, Scotch?
Doing great. Hey, Maddens, how you doing?
I'm doing fine myself, man. It's a lovely Friday afternoon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, today we got a good show in store for you. I know doing it on Friday, so we won't be able to go over the power rankings, but we'll still take a quick look at the standings, go over some of the trades. Then, of course, we got the interview with Scotch and a new segment to the show. We're going over some highlights at the end of the show. Some people sent some highlights in. I threw a highlight or two in there. It's all going to be good. So, that being said, let's move on to the standings. All right. Doing that. Okay. So first off, we'll go over the Eastern Atlantic, obviously, because it's at the top. And of course, you got my team, the Hershey Bears, sitting up top. Oops. 58 points. Hartford Wolfpack, they're on a 9-game winning streak. They're shooting for the top, I guess, spot. And they're on number 2 right now. Number 3, we got the Thunderbirds, 44 points. They're down. I think they're in the same spot from last week. The Sound Tigers down the 4th. I believe they're in 2nd. Then you got the Phantoms, Bruins, and Scranton pulling up the rear. I know a lot of people think this is an ultra weak division, Scotch. What are your thoughts on this division when you look at it? I want to see an outside perspective.
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree with that statement. It is a weak division. It's a division that I was in last season with the Providence Bruins, and it kind of looks similar with the Hershey Bears kind of running away with it, and then the other teams that are just trying to catch up. It's quite interesting that Hartford won 9 in a row. I don't know exactly what happened there to make the difference this week. I mean, I didn't really look into it. Something maybe to look into. I have been keeping an eye on them because any team that has a 9-game winning streak is always something you want to follow and look at and see how far they're going to go with that. And in the division, I do look at the Hershey Bears because they are the top team of the division. And one thing I've noticed with Hershey is that there are some games that you guys win easily, and then there are others where you mightily struggle. So I'm not sure if that's a particular line or if there are chemistry issues at the moment. But that's how I see that division.
Well, I think that's a pretty good overview. I will say, yeah, the Wolfpack didn't see the 9-game winning streak coming. If you were listening to the show last week, I told you both the West is playing the West and the East playing the East. And if you pull the 9-game winning streak going through the Eastern North, it starts to make me think the Wolfpack's gonna make a little bounce back here. But yeah, for the Bears, we do have an issue sometimes. We actually had to use a lot of ECUs this week. A lot of players weren't even able to play, like our roster players weren't even able to play like 1 or 2 games hardly. So it was a big ECU week for the Bears. So that's always tough.
So that would definitely do it. But I mean, in their 9-game, and I'm just looking at their last games here, in their 9-game winning streak, they have a couple of times where they blew out the other team, 8-0. I'm actually looking at the game that they had against Hershey. It was a tight one there, but Hockey Town seems to be on fire right now. Things are running well for them.
Yeah, man. It's always good to see a team that's not doing well early off, make a push back. I've always been a firm believer in the underdog team. I've always been one to cheer for a team that's having a tough time than one that's just always doing well. But after that, we'll move on to the Eastern North. Take a look. It's definitely a little bit different than it was last week. I remember last week there was a 3-way tie between the Marlies, the Crunch, and the Senators, and it doesn't appear to be that way anymore. You got the Marlies still in the lead with 66. Trailing right behind is the Crunch, 64 points. Then the Senators, 62. Utica, 53. Then you got the Americans about 9 points behind. St. John's and the Devils pulling up the rear. Looks like St. John's went up one. I believe they were seventh last week. What do you think about this division, Scotch?
Yeah. This division's interesting. We played this division. Wasn't Was it last week or the week before? And we did really well against this division. The only team that really gave us a lot of trouble were the Senators, and that was pretty much my fault because I took a 5-minute penalty with 10 seconds left in the game. That penalty still haunts me to this day because we were winning and we should have had that game.
Yeah, those
But other
penalties.
than that,
Well,
yeah. Other than that, the Rochester Americans, I think, should be winning more. They're a better team than what their record dictates at the moment. I think that they can. I think they can bring it back up. Utica has a few issues there. I'm not sure if it's defense, um, but they surprise me sometimes. They lose against teams that they shouldn't, and I guess that's kind of like the Griffins. There's if you let too many of those games pass you by, then you end up sometimes looking from the outside in. But generally, this is a very strong division. Led by the Marlies, a very very solid team. The Crunch as well is a very good team. And even then, I would think that the Crunch could surpass the Marlies.
right. Yeah. My division just played this division. I didn't play the Marlies, but I played the Crunch, the Senators, and the Comets. I went 3-0, just saying. But besides that, they were all good teams. I mean, the only game that really the Marlies beat us in OT. Um, Comets game kind of got away from those guys. I think we won that one like 10-2 or something like that. They were all pretty good games. I mean, it could have gone either way. I know that I think the Ice Caps beat us, but that was against one of those ECU lines. But hey, still got to field the team every week, right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
mean,
and
yeah, go ahead.
that this summer season may be skewing things too because you look at the roster and sometimes you'll say, "Well, this roster on paper looks fantastic," but you don't know how many ECUs you're bringing in, and so that can skew your look from a high level.
Oh yeah, definitely. You could tell the summer effect is definitely affecting a lot of teams the way they schedule their lineups because, like you said, not everyone can always make all the games, and you never know who's using it to you. I don't know how many times I've looked at a lineup this season and it's changed right before the game. You know. So all right, after the North, we'll move on to the West Central. Things almost look exactly the same from what I remember last week. Got the Monsters up top, 72 points. Iowa Wild, 63. The Moose, 59. Scotch's team sitting at fourth with 55. Charlotte Checkers right below them at 54. Then you got the Wolves and Admirals at 47, and the Ice Hogs pulling up the rear with 37. I gotta say that Freeze is doing his thing again. Obviously, this season he's riding the top. If anything, he's going a little harder than he did last season. Wild right there. It's pretty much a mirror of last season almost. The only teams that look different to me is the Moose, Griffins. They're fighting for better position. Now you actually play in this division, Scotch. Maybe you could give me a better insight. I think we've only won against some of these teams one time, if that.
Yeah, and this division is really, I think, I believe, is the toughest division. Um, and I may be biased, but I honestly believe that these teams are really tough to beat. The Moose is very surprising. It depends whether Vibes has ECUs or he doesn't have ECUs in the game, but he has a really good team there. Beat us last night, which I was a little disappointed because that was a 4-point game for us. We could have been tied today, or we could have even surpassed maybe. So we're fighting for our lives here. Cleveland with Freeze, I don't think he's going to make the same mistake as last year. I think he's going to roll through, and he's going to be one of those teams that at the end, he may take it all because there isn't going to be that much movement within his team. He has his players set. He's had them set since the beginning of the year. These guys know each other. They've played. Most of them have played last season together, so they have that advantage. Um, and for the other teams, I mean, the Wild had a huge trade not too long ago, so they've been up and down. They're 6-3-1 in the last 10, but that could be an adjustment period. Um, and for the Griffins, for my own team, I think for us, what it is a matter of winning those games that we're supposed to be winning, which is not bad. I'm really happy with the team. We started from scratch this year, so we didn't have any returning players. So being where we're at in this tough division is already an accomplishment.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of like me and you pretty much switched divisions this season. I was in the West Central on the Wolves last season. And let me tell you, it was no picnic trying to get a playoff spot in there. I think we tied for fourth but lost the tiebreaker. So I don't envy you in this division at all. So let's move on to the Western Pacific, shall we?
Yes.
All right, in the Western Pacific, you got the Barracuda sitting at top still. They were there last week, 67 points. The Rain, 59. Stars, 58 place. The Heat jumped up on the goals with 48. Goals have 47. I noticed they went through a big slide. They had a tough week against West Central. They're in fourth, but I noticed midweek I looked at them. They were on like a 4 or 5 game losing streak. My team highlight last week. I feel like I cursed them a little bit. Maybe the Madden curse, huh?
Maybe.
Then you got the Roadrunners at 42 and the Rampage and the Condors pulling up the rear, starting to fall a little bit too far behind. These guys are really going to have to kick it in gear. Overall, I have to say I would say this is like a medium ranked division. I mean, you got the Barracuda, who seem like a well put together team. Then you got the Rain and the Stars, who seem about the same, maybe about the same talent level as the Heat and the Gulls, but just maybe the Gulls and the Heat aren't getting those bounces. Uh, Overall, pretty. If you could string together some wins, besides the two at the bottom, maybe they need a huge streak to get back in here. But I see a lot of movement could be done in this division before playoff time. What do you think on that, Scott?
Yeah, I think the Barracuda are going to run away with it in this division. There's no doubt about that. For Ontario, they've been faltering the last 2 weeks. I think after that trade that they did with Iowa, they lost some of that initial chemistry that they had, and something happened there where they're not the same team. They're not as good as they were in the first couple of weeks. After that, Texas just changed their goaltending. So they have Painter, which was our starting goaltender at the beginning of the year for the Griffins, has moved over to Texas. He's a real good goaltender, so he's going to help them out. They had some goaltending issues and some defense issues. They're working on fixing that, so I think they're going to come in and jump up into that number two spot. Stockton definitely has the firepower to take that number three spot, and San Diego is just, I mean, I don't know what to say. They they have they have a great team on paper again, but 2-7-1 in the last 10 just isn't good enough to take a playoff spot. That's for sure.
Right, yeah. That's kind of why I highlighted San Diego last week. I think they had a little streak of 7, 8 games, if I remember, something like that. But then, with one loss on the end of the week, and then they go into this week, a tough week. They needed to string together some wins, and like I said, they went on that. I think it was a 5, 6 game losing streak. If they would have pulled half those games out, they'd still be sitting in fourth, maybe pushing for third. But yeah, like I gotta agree with the paper on the team, or the team on paper. Sorry, I said that backward. They look great on paper. I mean, I would love to have a team like that on paper, but sometimes paper doesn't always transfer over into the games. That's always
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we covered the standings, let's take a quick look at some of the trades that have already gone through this week. No, it's still a little early, but since it's the Friday edition, I won't be able to cover a majority of the trades. So, um, let's see if there's anything in here. Okay. Thunder Thumbs going to the Phantoms for nothing. That's interesting. Jealous and that, I'd assume. Not really much to say on that one. You got Rams and the Bald Eagle heading to the Barracuda for a check mark from going to the Ice Hogs.
Yeah, that'd be an ECU trade. That check mark was in the duck in at Barracuda's TC.
Yeah,
He's he's a decent backup defenseman that you want to have come playoff time.
right,
And even if you have a couple of defensemen lefty struggling, he's a good man to bring up.
right. You can never have enough of those guys who can fill in a tight spot.
Absolutely.
All right, the next one, we got a 3-for-1 here. Reaper's Rage of the Admirals is going to go play some tendy over on the Providence Bruins. The Bruins are sending over Dancing Tank 419, Extreme Gamer L, and Virus 291. Um, I'm assuming most of these guys coming from Providence are TC guys. I haven't really heard of any of them. Have you, Scotch?
No, I haven't heard of them. Yeah, I would assume they're TC guys. I haven't taken a look. I know LKG moved around a bit this season already, so I think they're just trying to find a place for him where he can do well.
Right. I always thought Reaper's Rage is a guy in the right conditions could perform really well. I've played against him several times in league, and he either has a standout game or it just seems to go through him like Swiss cheese. I never really see him have a medium style game. It's either all or nothing with that guy. But I'd like to see him land in somewhere where he felt comfortable, see what he can do.
Yeah.
All right, here's a trade that seems pretty relevant to me. You got Dr. Oz and Captain Critter heading over to the Stockton Heat from the Roadrunners for I think you say Borges Salming 21. I'm not sure, but he's heading from the Heat over to the Roadrunners. I know the Heat have been looking for a goalie. Dr. Oz, I feel, is a pretty decent tendy. It might be a really good trade for them.
Yeah, I mean Borge is a tendy as well, veteran tendy. I mean, I really don't know much about him. This is a goaltender swap, maybe to just shake things up.
Right.
I think Borge is Borge is going to be maybe the backup at in Tucson. So kind of interesting trade here.
Yeah, that's what I think too. See if Dr. Oz can help the Heat improve a little bit. I know they're struggling in some games on that back end. An NHL trade. I'm just going to skip over that one. Another NHL trade. See a lot of movement from the Albany Devils. Oh, here's an interesting one. This looks like a big TC trade. I know Codester's usually a roster guy, but you got Codester, Koyoman, and USAF Merzinski 21 from the Admirals heading to the Devils for Dodan Sticky Gigloo and LKG Reaper's Rage was in this trade as well, and SML 09. So Reaper's Rage on the move this week.
That's right. Yeah. So in this here, I think it's part of the Admirals that wanted to move a goaltender and get in return, something half decent. So this it's a good chance. This is a good trade right here.
Yeah, I actually know a few of the guys in this trade, and I can't really pick a winner either way. It seems like a pretty up and down, even trade from my viewpoint.
Yeah, and you got captain's a guy from Quebec. Sticky, he knows Sticky very well, so maybe maybe he has more chemistry with Sticky than Codester. So that
Right,
sometimes the trade is just a matter of somebody and you know how that you can play well with.
right. I gotta agree with that. I will always pick a guy I feel like is going to play better with me than some random guy.
Yeah.
That's the league for you. All right, let's we'll go over that one. That one don't seem too important to me. Uh,
Well, the Bali 91 trade, I think that's just Texas moving out a goaltender so that it can make room for Painter.
right.
Uh, and so in this case here, he moves out his goaltender, picks up
Yeah,
uh,
because you see
a
down
couple
here
of
Painter
TCs.
for cold shot right there. So yeah, that's obviously what that move's about.
Yeah.
All right, I think that'll cover it for trades. I know there's more coming up, so I'm not going to go too in depth on each individual trade on this section here. So that being said,
And
we'll move over to
maybe
the.
there's just one more you want to talk about. You got Puner that moved over, so
All right, yeah,
he
go ahead.
seems to have moved over now for the third time. I always find it interesting that these are the type of guys that are difficult for GMs to handle. And then they're good, great players, but they keep moving from team to team to team. At what point do you start realizing that maybe you just, become a regular player, put your availability, you do the best you can with whatever the GM needs from you, and that's it. These type of players that try to dictate the game or try to dictate what line and what days they play. They're going to get moved around a lot, and I think this is the case here.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the case. I try not to highlight players, I guess, who do that kind of thing because I'm the type of guy like, hey, if you're gonna pick to be a player in the beginning of the season, you show up, you give your availability, you try to be a team player, do what it takes to win. If you need to get moved or something, tell your GM on the low. Like why make a big deal? Why hurt the whole team? Other guys might be having fun. If you're a guy who feels like you have to dictate everything, got a little word for you: management. Come into management, you get to schedule your lines, you get to pick your team, you get to pretty much own every aspect. Unless you're AHL, then you got to deal with the NHL guys a little bit. But
Yeah,
sounds like some of these guys need to either take on management or learn how to be on a team. In my opinion.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, let's move on to your team, Scott. Since I got you here, man, the team highlight this week is definitely going to be the Grand Rapids Griffins. Which I got to say is I'm from Michigan and a Detroit Red Wings fan, so yeah, I'm basically a secret fan of your team here.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, man, let's go over your roster here and if you could just give me a little info on some of these guys. I know some of them I don't know. So I guess if you could just, we'll start with the forwards. If you could just go over some of the forwards and just, tell us a little bit about their play style, how you feel like they fit in, why you picked them up, or how you got them.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I mean, what I'll do is I'll go per line, I guess. I have some. I've been lucky this year. Everybody shows up to every game. I don't have any ECUs, so the guys were kind of laughing the other day. I sent out a message and I said, look, all my TCs are bored. If you guys have room for them, let me know because we don't have any open spots. Guys have been showing up every week. I know that other teams haven't had that luxury. I'm kind of poking at the other GMs here while I'm saying this, but I'm just happy that we have all these guys that are available and they can play. So we've had some pretty steady lines, which has helped us.
Right.
We haven't had too much movement. I had a fair bit of trades in the beginning of the season, mostly to look at finding good D pairings and working on getting some stellar goaltending, um, and um, and also at the same time, as uh, when I was with Providence last season, when we came up to the playoffs, I didn't have enough TC amateurs to make it through the first round. There were a bunch of guys that didn't show up for the playoffs. I needed to have those ECUs. The rules are a little bit more strict how and when you can use your amateurs in the playoffs. So I really wanted to build build that backup for every one of the positions. And so there were a lot of trades at the beginning of the season, but now we're steady. Um, there are minor tweaks still, but that's in our division right now we have one of the most goals against. So I'm just kind of tweaking so that we can bring down those goals against. And it's really not to point at the goaltenders or the defense. We play defense as a team. That's how hockey's played. So you need to look at your 5 man, well, actually your 6 man, that you suit up for the game and try to see how you can shut down the opponent. So if I take one of the lines that we have, I have PT Sierras that came down from the NHL about 6 games ago. He plays with KJ Sniper, which I think is pretty known in the league, and Maple Leafs, which is leading in points right now for the team. They've been on fire. I mean, those 6 games since PT came down, he really sparked that line, and they've been doing fantastic. They've been putting up quite a few goals per game, and that's why Maple Leafs is up there right now. Maple Leafs is a draft pick that that came down from the NHL at the beginning of the season, has been with us, has played on that line since the beginning. So a lot of stability there.
Right. I also noticed you picked up Obey the Sandman in a trade this season. It had to be a good thing to pick up a guy who was already started off his season well. You seem to mesh in with your team well as good or good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had that line with Obey and lots of bean pots, 2 great players. I'm on that line now on the left wing. So it kind of changed the dynamic for that line because we had Spray and Pray on that line that went up to the NHL, and we had PT come down. And since PT style is different and worked well with KJ's line, we put him down on that line and moved myself out of center into left wing with Obey and Bean. So we have our moments. We have a few things to work out, but very good line. You know, most of the things that we need to work out is that I just need to get back and used to being on the left wing. I play center, over 75% of the time. So just moving to the left wing sometimes it's just a matter of positioning on the breakout so that you can be open enough for the defense for that first pass. That's something that I'm working on. And but other than that, we've won most of our games together.
Well, that's good. I know that playing switching from center to left wing could be difficult because as center, you're more, I guess you could say, a little more on the defensive minded side. Not saying centers can't play offense, but when you're playing wing compared to center, it almost feels like you're cherry picking the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm a defensive center, so I like to stay back with the defense. And when you're playing as a left wing, you want to be able to be that guy who you can, if the puck's on the right side, you want to be that guy up at the top of the center, being able to hope and pray that you can get that breakaway, or at least you can push the defense back from the other team's defense back real quick. It's different. It definitely is different.
Yeah, I agree, man. All right, so if you could move on to the some of the defenders and the goalies on your team and give us a little insight on them.
Yeah, so if I go with the defenders, obviously I have my AJ Marks that's there. He runs the defense. He's what I would call I call him money balls because he does take a look at a lot of games, a lot of tape. He does a lot of reviewing, and he gives me a lot of analytical information on the other teams. He gives me a lot of information on other players, and so really appreciate the work that he does there, and it helps the team tremendously on the defensive side. He's partnered up with Defiance, who we ended up getting as as a randomly assigned player in the first week, which to me was the jackpot because Defiance is a great,
Lucky
great lefty.
you. Yeah, I know Defiance. I like him. That's pretty lucky there.
Yeah. We just picked up Etsy last week to solidify the left defense, and we've had Corwan now for 2 weeks. Um, And then we also have John Shadow that we brought up. He was in the TC. He's only played 3 games with us, so we're still getting to know him, getting to see how he fits in and who he plays best with. And and we have Optimus, which is a great defensive defenseman. He's been with us. He's one of the only players that we did re-sign from from the winter season. So he's been with us and doing a great job there in the right D. For our goaltending, I have Tybod that I ended up picking up. He was on TC. I ended up picking him up, getting trading for him in I believe it was week 2. I wanted to make sure I had goaltending insurance. I know Tybod because he was with me last season in Providence, and I knew that he was a great goaltender. So when the time came and we had an open spot, I brought him up. And he's played 10 games for us now. He's 7-2-1, so I mean, great record there. And and just last week we ended up trading for Alex Cleroux, which I think is a great goaltender. Ended up being a trade where I got Alex and Brodeur, which is draft pick goaltender for Painter, which you saw move around again in the trades to Texas just this week. So I thought I got a good deal there. And between the two of them, I think we're pretty solid in net right now, going into the playoff run.
Yeah, I have to say, Scotch, I was definitely surprised last season when you took over management. I didn't know you had any ambition to do that. And I was very, very happy, I guess, with the results. You turned the Bruins around. It was what, at least mid-season. You turned them around. You taking this team. You had a little bit of a slow go, but if you ask me, your team's just as tough as anyone. I believe I played you one time. We played you and we lost in OT. We kind of gave the game to you guys, but it wasn't like it was an easy game. Obviously it went to OT. So um,
Yeah,
I got to
the
say,
team
you're good
definitely
at
has
doing your
fight in
thing.
it.
I'm sorry, what?
The team definitely has fight in it. We fight to get those wins. You know, we do it. We try to do our best against the top teams. We've done. I think our record's good against those top teams. Yeah, I think. There's no magic to it. I mean, it's a matter of putting in time. That's all it is to it. I work from home. I put in the time. Marks is there. He puts in the time. I have also Dufresne that's there. I didn't talk about his line, but Duff spends a ton of time playing with the guys, practicing, giving his input. Also, practicing with the TC, seeing what we have down there, because I mean, you never know. You may not know a guy, but you may have a gem in your TC, and we've found a few. We've found a few definitely in there. And so if you take the time, you'll be able to do those tweaks, and the outcome will definitely be better.
Yeah, I gotta agree, man. Your team definitely has some fight in it. I look forward to seeing you guys making a playoff run at the end of the season. I think you guys are gonna be there. That's I guess Mad Dog's prediction, mid-season prediction there. All right, moving on from just your team. What team in your division would you say kind of is catching your eye the most? The one you're most worried about as of right now, saying like if we're gonna go to playoffs or whatever. Which team you probably like? Oh man, wouldn't really want to go up against these guys first. You know?
Wow, I definitely don't want to go against Freeze first. That's for sure. I mean, that team is the top team in the league right now, so you don't want to go against that. So, right, our hope right now is to win enough games, try to get as close as we can to that top spot, so that we can have so that we can dictate, the first round of the playoffs. Definitely, Freeze's team is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, definitely holding down that fourth spot is going to ruin your dreams of not playing them first.
Absolutely. So that's yeah. So that's why again I was quite disappointed with the loss against the Moose yesterday. It's we still have time to catch up, but it would have been nice to be sitting in that third spot right now.
Oh, something tells me you'll be seeing them in the last week or two. You'll have your chance to remedy that situation.
Absolutely. We'll be looking forward to it.
All right. Well, looking outside of your division, what teams would you say you're keeping your eye on outside the division? It could be either one or a couple teams.
What outside of the division, I really take a look every night. I'm just curious at the teams that are doing well, and then I look at streaks. So obviously, in the last week, I was watching Hartford to see if they would go 9-0, and then so I watched them in the last week. Other than that, I take a look at teams like Toronto, Syracuse, Binghamton, Utica. I generally check and see who they play against and how they match up, just so that I have an idea when we come against them, how they're doing against the tougher teams. Um, and same goes for San Jose and Stockton, Texas, Ontario. But, most of the top teams, I will look at them and analyze and see how they're doing. Just because unless you play against them, you can't tell how you match up, right, from conference to conference. And then, if you take a look at the Eastern North, we did really well against that conference. Does it mean that we're that much of a stronger team? Well, I don't know. So that's why I keep looking at these teams to say, well, if we ever get to play against them, how do we match up? And so I take a good look at who they play against and from other divisions, and that's how I can gauge that.
All right. Well, I'll jump in here for a minute. Sounds like you need a sip of water. But yeah, man. I agree with you. You got to pay attention to the other teams across the board. Like you said, you don't really get to play the other teams outside of your division more than once or twice a season. So that's usually not enough to know what's going on with them. So especially the top teams, if you feel like you're going to make a playoff run, you got to be paying attention to these guys. See if they took a bad loss somewhere, see why they did, see who was playing. I mean, it's just all things, what's their play style? Are they trying to force it up the ice real quick? Are they moving slow and steady? Are they playing a trap defense? I mean, it's all good stuff to know going into a game, so you have a better idea of attacking instead of going out there and then making adjustments in the third period and you're down 2 goals. You know, it's better when you know what they're gonna do and you have a better idea and you start off the game good. Play from
Yeah, and
ahead.
then that's like what I was saying before. I mean, Marks takes a lot of time reviewing video and looking at the other teams and looking at the other players and what they do. There's no magic to it. The more time you put in, the better chance you have at winning those games.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. It sounds like a guy that I would love to have on the show to help me out with some of that. I can't pay attention to everyone all the time, although I do try my best. But having someone like that, he sounds like he really gets down into that stuff, which I
Absolutely,
kind of enjoy.
absolutely.
Maybe I'll have to talk to him in the future. All right, so All Star nominations are coming up. I was wondering if you could give the Mad Dog Radio and its viewers a little sneak peek into who you might be nominating.
Who I'm nominating from my own team.
Well,
I
yeah,
can.
unless you could nominate people from other teams. Not just kidding.
Well, I nominated I nominated certain players. It was basically based on for defense the games they won, and for the offense it was related to their point production. I have. Let me go back to what I had put in here. You got to give me a sec to get to that screen.
No problem. While you're doing that, I'm gonna take an educated guess. How about that?
Okay, you do
All right.
you do that, and then I'll tell you if you're right.
Okay. Give me a second. Let me real quick. All right. I'm gonna go with. Definitely gonna have to say you're putting out. Judging from what you said, we'll go with Obey. It's gonna be one of them for center. Your left wing. I know. I think your right wing is going to be Maple Leaves. Your left wing, probably your captain would be my guess. And then for defense, I'm gonna go with Defiance and who was that other guy you mentioned earlier? Where's he at? No, I'm gonna leave it blank at right D and goalie because I'll guess those four. How about that?
Yeah. So the nominations are done quite early.
Yeah,
They
that's
were
true.
done. They were done last week, and so Maple was a bit lower than he had a tremendous week again this week. He may be in the top stars of the week this week again, as he was 2 weeks ago. I do have Obey in there. I have Who's Duke, who has been having a great season.
Ah, Duke,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and I have lots of Bean Pots that's nominated as well.
Well, I got 1 out of 3.
Yeah. For defense, definitely Defiance. He's been very solid lefty for us. I have Optimus, which is somebody that you may not necessarily know, but he's a defensive defenseman. You need those guys. He's the lockdown guy. He's had some tremendous weeks for us. And then in nets, it was a little bit more difficult because Alex just came in last week. Tybod had been there only for 2 weeks, so I put Tybod for the amount of games that he has, but it could go either way. Come the time when you're to choose who would be the goaltender who had the best um, who had the best performance. By the time you pick them, I mean it could be either one. Both are doing fantastic.
Right, and it sounds like some pretty solid selections. I forgot all about Who's Duke right there. I seen him earlier because he was on my team last season, you know. But I think Duke's a good player and definitely having a great season. So definitely a good call there. And then I'll be looking to see this Optimist guy you're talking about. I'll have to pay some attention to him if you're bringing him up so much. But we are going to move on from your team. I'm sure that makes you real sad, but move into the new segment on the show, which is the highlights. I've got some highlights sent in. Hopefully, if you guys send me more, I'll be able to make a whole highlight reel. But for now, I just went through and I picked a couple of them, and we're just going to review them and see what we're working with here, huh? So, you ready, Scotch?
I'm ready.
All right, the first one actually comes in from the Grand Rapids Griffins. This is KJ Sniper hitting a goal with barely any time on the clock. It's a pretty sweet one at that. Here we go.
The Griffins controlling play now in their own end. Pass attempt to Malkin.
See, gets it about the blue line. Does a little dance.
Into
Hits the
attack
jukes, splits the D, and bam! Backhander right into the net. That's a deal breaker right there.
Yeah, that's definitely walking through everybody. That was a pretty goal.
Yeah, let's just take a look at it one more time, shall we?
Yeah, if you look at the beginning, you got Maple there on the right there doing some work along the boards, trying to make sure that we don't lose the possession of the puck in the defensive zone. So that's really important. Get that puck out of the
Yeah,
zone.
there definitely was some good passing going on right there to get it out. They weren't just going
You
up
got
and down, they were going side to side and all that. There you
you
go.
got Marks. You got Marks, which is the right D, and then he's there supporting the right wing. And so, in tandem, we make sure we get that puck out, and it gives KJ a chance to do what he does best.
I gotta say, man, after watching that highlight right there, can can't blame you for having that guy. You know what I'm saying? So next we're gonna move on to the next highlight, which is you know, I didn't want people to feel like I'm only putting myself out there, but this one was so nice I had to include it. So here we go. This is versus Utica this week here. As you can see, the score is already 6-1. So there we go. I grab
So
it off the face off.
an important goal, right?
Oh yeah, always important, right? And as you can see right there, I named this one "Walking Through the Park" because there was not a lot of resistance. Didn't have to do anything too flashy. A little windmill deke into the backhand. Take a page out of KJ's book right there on the shot, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? You did have to be aggressive on the face-off, and that's something as a left wing. If you're paying attention to, how your center's doing in face-offs, you want to make sure that you can do that aggressive forecheck and maybe end up with a puck, and you got that opportunity there to score the goal because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely. That's why I've always been a strong believer in on my team that someone always has to go in the face-off circle. Like you got to make that known before the game. You can't just because you never know when a tie-up's going to happen or a puck bounce. It's just the centerman's tied up, he can't grab it. As for example, right there, I went and grabbed it. No one challenged me. Basically a skate. All right, moving on. This is a highlight of Charbin. I believe that's the Dallas team he's on.
Yeah, he was just called back up.
Yeah. All
He was
right.
on.
Well, this is versus the Wolfpack. It must have been last week because obviously we know they went undefeated in this previous week. But this is a pretty nice OT winner right here. Get to it. There you go. As you see, he's getting a little bit of his cherry pick on. Hit some sweet dangles. And I'm starting to see a trend in some of these goals on the back end here. These goalies are going to have to work on their blocker side.
Did you ask for only backhand goals?
Yeah, I'm starting to think I did. Well, yeah, let's check it out again. If you can see right here, I wish I could do like highlight like the football games. Charbon's obviously, he's the one, he's identifying the play right now. He sees it going down in the corner. As soon as he sees his team get it, he automatically breaks up ice. I know I said he was cherry picking her.
Lefty is definitely nervous there because he's not protecting the zone.
Yeah, I mean he's at least he's identifying it. At least letting him escape behind him. Yeah. All right, so we'll move on a little forward. Yeah, he sees a play, gets the puck. Now he hits the dangles. Good night, defenseman. If you ask me, that defenseman, he just, even though he was staying back, he didn't want to be in that position. You could tell.
Yeah. The other thing too is, I mean, obviously the defenseman doesn't have the auto back skate, which is something that you don't want to have. But you got to make sure that you can at least face the puck carrier and attempt to take that puck away from him. From what I could see in the highlights, pretty small on my phone, but the defenseman had his back to Charbin most of the play. So that's something that you may want to make sure that you don't do too often.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you start off with your back to him, it's hard to get a good poke check. I mean, if you got to catch up to him, understandable, but it's hard to play defense when you're looking the other way. All right, and only got 2 left, so I guess this one was rated number 2 on my list here. I call it Super Dupe. Jack Dupe for my team. I nicknamed him 9-5 because he's got the big 9-5 contract, And let me show you right here why this guy is worth the money. All right. So here we go. Oh, wait, wrong highlight.
You wanted to see your goal one more time.
Yeah, I see that, right? I clicked on the wrong one. All right, here we go. Now we got it. Same game. a little earlier on. But here we go. There you see, he steals the puck, takes a trip, gets back up, gets the puck back, hits the spin move, then the dirty dish in front of the net for the goal.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you can't really explain how you feel when you're playing in a game and your teammate does that. I mean, he hits me for the goal, but if you ask me, that's not even close to being the highlight. Like, let's watch it one more time. Takes the trip, gets it back, dangles both defenders, or three if you count the center, for the dish. I mean, that's why I call him 9-5. Any thoughts on that one, Scotch?
Yeah, I could see how you get free goals there. That's what I'm thinking.
I know. I didn't do anything besides skate up the ice. Jack did all the rest. Draws a penalty and creates the goal opportunity. Gotta love guys like that, right?
Yeah, and he's whispering in your ear, "Okay, man, you ready? Are you in the right spot? Okay, I'm gonna bounce this off of you."
Right? Yeah, basically, give me an angle, right? All right, and I had to rate this number one. It's the Cleveland Monsters' big surprise versus Ontario Reign. But the big surprise of the clip is this is not for a goal. This is actually a save, and not by the Tendy. I'm not going to give it away, but let's take a look at the clip.
Nice block.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, watch that cross. Watch the cross. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wide open net, and Troy, I got some numbers after his name. We'll call him Troy. Troy, find it one more time. As you can see, the goalie took a dive trying to cover the puck. There's Troy all alone, and of course it goes right to the other team. I don't know how many times I've seen it happen in a game, but I'll tell you what, I've rarely seen what happens next happen.
Cross.
Troy just
Oh my goodness,
takes the block, takes it like a champ, right in the face.
Definitely. With the score 2-1, it couldn't be
2-1.
any.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the
couldn't
first.
be any
but,
better.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely cuts you down at the knees, right? If you're Ontario, you're trying to get your momentum back. You can see it being 2-2 and then putting the pressure on, but then you got Troy getting in there and blocking that shot. So
I tell you what, man, with a defender like that on my team, I'm feeling a lot more secure on how I'm playing forward. I might inch a little bit up every time he makes a play like that. Like, that's just insane. Like, wide open net and the D-man takes it out. That's just good awareness right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Noticing that the goaltender is in a weak moment and covering. That's how you want your defense to react.
Yep, I agree. Too many times you see in this game the defenders are usually obstructing their goalie and making it harder for them than basically giving them a helping hand like that. But yeah, that about does it for the highlights. Kudos to Troy for making number one this week. If you guys have any highlights from games, and I'm not just doing goals, big hits. I love to see some big hits. Goals, of course. Love the goals. And I'd like to see some tendies send in some sweet saves. I know Vizina sent in one, but I was having a hard time locating it. So part of getting the clips in, guys, is making sure you make these clips right. If you get them right, I'll put them on the air. If I get a bunch of them, I'll make a highlight clip and just run them all back to back and then break down the ones I think are need a little extra love. All right, so that's about going to do it for Mad Dog Radio this week. I'd like to thank my guest, Killer Scotch, coming on here, give me an inside look at the Griffins, and basically putting up with me for an hour.
Thanks for having me, Madden. It was fun. I hope I didn't talk too much and take over the show here, and gave you guys enough insight into the Griffins. Excited to see how this all turns out.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I appreciate having you. I feel like you talked just the right amount. When I did the show last week by myself, I felt like I was, very parched at the end of the show, man. It's weird when you're only talking to yourself, if you ask me. But no, I enjoyed having you, man. Yeah, I like playing with you on NHL 17. Hopefully, I'll see you out there on the ice again soon. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, is there anything you would like to say before we take off here, Scotch?
No, I think that's it. And you know what? This is my first time on any kind of broadcast. I welcome any kind of comments if anybody has. If I said anything that may have offended anybody, which I don't think, but sometimes you don't realize and you call out somebody. I don't think I did, but I try to be fair with everybody and just say it like it is.
Yeah, uh, no one's down you there. I don't feel like you're very offensive, but even if someone's offended, all I gotta say is fuck them. So.
I mean, everybody knows me now. I'm a pretty straight up guy. I don't ruffle anybody's feathers really. So
Yeah, I wouldn't put you in that class of players there, Scotch. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us here at Mad Dog Radio. Me and Scotch signing out, and this is Mad Dog Madden saying, "Guard your cup."
thanks, Madden.
All right, later.